Here's how I created this beautiful blue and gold fake mosaic table from this not so beautiful table. I'll be using wood filler to create the fake tiles, so I'm just adding some PVA glue to help it stick. I'm also adding some tape around the edge to keep the filler in place. Next was to smooth the filler over the top. This looked really good in some bits like here, but in other bits it was quite bumpy, so it was definitely a challenge. I found that using a sponge really helped to smoothen out some of the bigger lumps. For my design, I wanted a nice frame around the edge, so I'm just holding my finger on the outside of the table to score those nice lines. Some of them didn't quite work, so the sponge came in handy. As you can see, I've got the nice squares in the middle with the frame around the edge. Bobby pins worked really well for that. I let that dry for a good week or so to make sure it was fully set. As you can see, some of the filler did drag when I was creating the lines, so I'm just using a tiny little screwdriver to neaten those up. After a quick hoover, I grabbed some 240 grit sandpaper to start getting the tiles nice and smooth. This bit was really satisfying. Once I was happy that everything was looking nice and smooth, I then went on to the primer. Once I applied this, I let that sit for a few days or so, then went on to the stencil making. I was really inspired by Persian Moroccan style tiles, so I created this design and carefully cut out the main sections. I then laid the stencil down, drew around the edges, and then flipped the stencil over to create like a quad design. This was definitely a labour of love. There were 32 tiles in total. I then added a nice little floral design around the edge and it was ready to paint. I used acrylic paints for these, starting off with this beautiful deep dark blue colour. Once I was happy with this, I moved on to adding some nice gold touches. I wanted to get that real sort of iridescent look that you get from tiles, so the light blue, I used lots of different shades to give it that depth. Around the edge, I just used different shades of blue and like a sandy colour to fill in those sort of rectangular tiles, then added some colour to the floral designs as well. Once that was done, I added some details to the petals and I wanted to add some gold to the frame section as well, so I just added some touches of gold here against the blue, which I think looked really beautiful. For some reason, I chose a dark grey for the grouting. I don't know why, and I wasn't that keen. Carried on with the varnishing anyway, because I figured I could always change it afterwards. A good tip here, 600 grit sandpaper works really well between dried layers of varnish, just to make things nice and smooth. And I changed my mind with the grouting, so I got some adhesive sealant in an off-white colour, smoothed that down with my finger, and then used a chopped up old debit card to take off the excess. And here's the final piece. I'm really happy with it. If you've got any questions at all, drop me a comment or send me a message.